Welcome to Demystifying Iran. 47 years ago, a popular revolution unfolded, one that observers East and West had deemed impossible to succeed. It was not merely a change of government, but an audacious, unprecedented proposal to construct a sovereign modern state upon Iran's own civilizational and Islamic religious foundations. It sought to answer Iran's central question of the modern era: how shall we govern ourselves? Not dependent upon imported or imposed ideologies, but with values that predated Western imperial thought. This was at its heart a profound act of intellectual and political decolonization. For decades, the dominant global narratives offered a binary choice: align with the secular liberal West or the socialist East. The Islamic Revolution rejected this false dichotomy. It proposed that true sovereignty begins in the mind, with the reclamation of the right to self-definition from imposed foreign paradigms. It asserted that modernity did not require the abandonment of faith or tradition, but could be forged through their revitalization. This revolution was not just for land or resources, but for the very right to broaden the framework of thought. It was a declaration that a nation's political imagination could be rooted in its own spiritual and historical consciousness. This is an examination of that ongoing project, its foundational rationale, its immense challenges, and its endurance. The Islamic Republic of Iran at 47 presents a unique case study in sovereign statecraft, born of a popular revolution and ratified by national referendum. It was forged in the crucible of an 8-year defensive war. That struggle solidified its identity as a nation under siege, yet unbowed. Sustained through decades of geopolitical pressure and economic sanctions, it is adopted while asserting one principle above all: its right to an independent path. From its inception, moreover, it anchored its foreign policy in a transcendent principle: the duty to protect the oppressed, both at home and abroad, as an ideological and ethical imperative. Thus, Iran has navigated a path of its own making, a path defined by endurance, by the logic of its religious and civilizational confidence, and by the relentless pursuit of strategic independence. This is the story of intellectual decolonization institutionalized. Every state seeks a foundation of popular legitimacy. For Iran's new order, this legitimacy was established by direct popular mandate. In April 1979, less than 2 months after the revolution's triumph, a national referendum posed a single decisive question. The result was an overwhelming vote in favor of establishing an Islamic Republic.
On February 1st, a crowd of around 3 million people in Tehran welcomed Khomeini's return from 14 years of exile.
Do you have any feeling for how long it may be before there is an Islamic state in Iran?
It is very close, and very soon we will announce a new government.
Are we talking about days, weeks?
Probably a few days.
April, following a nationwide referendum, an Islamic Republic was officially proclaimed.
The constitution that followed was unprecedented. Its genius and its enduring challenge lies in its deliberate hybridity in novel synthesis that attempts to wed temporal electoral legitimacy with the principle of permanent divine sovereignty. It established republican institutions, including an elected assembly of experts, president, parliament, and municipal and local councils to channel the people's will. Simultaneously, it instituted the principle of walayat-e-faqih, the guardianship of the Islamic jurist, as a safeguard. The logic was clear: to ensure the revolution's foundational ideas derived from both popular and divine will could not easily be subverted by transient populism or political manipulation. This constitutional blueprint was not imposed from above. A directly elected assembly of experts debated and drafted it. In December 1979, it was put to another national referendum. The ballot was color-coded: green for yes, red for no, so that every citizen, literate or not, could participate. This was a crucial democratic gesture in a country where, under the Shah, well over half the population was illiterate, with women disproportionately affected. This foundational logic was designed to inform a new posture that went beyond Iran's borders. Forged in a historical trauma of foreign domination, with the 1953 coup as a searing memory, the principle of neither East nor West emerged not as a mere rhetorical defiance, but as a strategic doctrine derived from direct experience. It was a declaration of strategic independence, asserting that true sovereignty could not be subordinated to any external power bloc. This doctrine was explicitly encoded in the nation's founding document. Article 152 of the Constitution legally enshrines this stance, mandating a foreign policy based upon the rejection of all forms of domination and stressing non-alignment with respect to the hegemonic superpowers. Yet the Constitution's vision transcends mere non-alignment. Article 154 commits the state to an active moral mission to support the just struggles of the mustad'afin, the oppressed, against the mustakbirin, the oppressors, in every corner of the globe. This transforms a religious and revolutionary slogan into a binding constitutional duty and began shaping global action immediately. In a decisive early move, the new government severed all diplomatic and economic ties with apartheid South Africa in March 1979. This action carried profound economic weight. Following the 1973 OPEC embargo and until the revolution, Iran, under the Shah, had supplied over 90% of South Africa's oil imports. Terminating this vital lifeline was a serious blow to the apartheid economy. This same ideological framework has since informed strategic partnerships with nations like Venezuela, viewed as sister states resisting hegemonic pressure. These alliances demonstrate that Iran's foreign policy is conceived not merely through the lens of geopolitics, but through a consistent commitment to confronting global oppression. This vision of assisting the oppressed is further animated by the Islamic Republic's constitutional foundation in the concept of the Ummah, the global community of believers. The preamble of the Constitution envisions the state as a step toward the movement to join the unified world community of Islam, transforming this solidarity into an active non-sectarian political directive. Within this framework, aiding the oppressed becomes a binding duty to fellow members of the Islamic community. The axis of resistance is the strategic embodiment of this directive in a fractured geopolitical landscape, converting a constitutional principle into a tangible network of mutual aid and defense. This collaboration fundamentally defies the reductive proxy framework a politicized characterization that distorts the strategic autonomy and genuine ideological alignment of these movements. Instead, they are better understood as a collective, emergent counter-response to centuries of colonial and neocolonial intervention and fragmentation, specifically challenging the imposition of a colonial and ethno-supremacist Zionist regime. From this constitutional and historical vantage point, the alliance represents a shared purpose among actors operating within the same ideological landscape, one shaped by a common history of foreign domination. Together, these constitutional provisions create a comprehensive ideological architecture, a sovereign nation-state operating within a dual framework of both Islamic and universal solidarity. Thus, the system's foundations codified a national and foreign policy defined by ideological solidarity, a commitment to independence and to supporting the marginalized and oppressed everywhere. With its political architecture in place, the state embarked on its most crucial endeavor, building a sovereign society. The logic of this sovereign development is best understood through the stark contrast between the nation it inherited and the nation it built under sanctions, terrorism, and war. A transformation most evident in vital fields like healthcare, food security, and most importantly, human capital. At the time of the revolution, Iran's literacy rate for citizens aged 15 and above was a mere 36%, well below the global average. The situation was particularly dire for women, with only 35% literate in 1979. Consequently, the Islamic Republic's first strategic move was a massive nation-driven mobilization of resources to achieve universal literacy. The transformation has been decisive. The national female literacy rate reached 74% in less than 2 decades and has since soared to 93.5%. In rural areas, the leap is even more dramatic, from a mere 4% to nearly 90%. This foundational investment in education created an entirely new societal environment, and all of this was done under sanctions and war. The principle behind educational justice also powered another of the nation's most dramatic turnarounds, its healthcare system. Before the revolution, deprived cities and villages often lacked the most basic public health infrastructure. To address this, the Ministry of Health and Medical Education was created to develop what would become one of the world's top national healthcare networks. As a result, infant and maternal mortality rates dropped at a stunning pace. The post-revolutionary era, with its focus on independence and state support, catalyzed a qualitative and quantitative leap. By the 1990s, 96 to 1970% of the country's medical needs were produced domestically, up from a mere 25%. More than just generic substitution, Iranian scientists have entered the frontier of producing high-tech, complex drugs, positioning the country as a regional leader, a capacity that proved its strategic value under the most severe sanctions. It was this human capital, the generations of educated scientists, engineers, and pharmacists, that became the nation's ultimate resource when facing external pressure. Their expertise ensured that production and innovation continued, supporting the population through war and embargo. The same imperative for self-sufficiency, driven by this educated and skilled population, transformed agriculture despite sanctions and climatic challenges. While the country's population has almost tripled since the revolution, agricultural output has surged more than 5-fold, achieving approximately 80% self-sufficiency. This immense productivity drive has secured the nation's food supply against external pressures. The project of sovereign development is continuous. The core lesson is that under maximum pressure, financial capital is unprincipled, but the true, non-sanctionable asset, educated and resilient human capital, remains and becomes the foundation for survival, growth, and innovation. Thus, the internal project reveals a consistent logic across almost 50 years. First, the political and social prioritization of the marginalized through eradicating illiteracy and protecting life. Second, the channeling of that human capital into decolonized intellectual thought, industry, and science, which in turn became the critical shield during times of severest sanctions. The new Islamic Republic was founded on the concept of neither East nor West, a rejection of alignment with or subordination to either superpower bloc. Where the monarchy sought security under a Western umbrella, the Islamic Republic has pursued it through strategic independence and cultivated partnerships beyond the West. For Tehran, the protracted adversarial relationship with the United States, the monarchy's principal ally, has been a primary strategic concern. Washington's post-revolutionary strategy has aimed at toppling the Islamic Republic, or at least containing it through comprehensive sanctions, financing Iran's adversaries, constructing bypass corridors, and forging new anti-Iranian alliances. This strategy is a direct counter to Tehran's refusal to submit and its support for anti-colonial and anti-imperial movements. In this context, the Axis of Resistance, BRICS, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization represent the revolutionary as well as international successors to the Shah's dependence on Washington. Where the Shah purchased security from a superpower patron, the Islamic Republic cultivates like-minded as well as ideologically aligned allies to create strategic depth and counter adversarial pressures. The Axis of Resistance in particular is central to Tehran's efforts to neutralize Western and Israeli hegemonic designs. On the global level, Iran has pursued a definitive look east and global majority policy, a conscious strategic reorientation from its monarchical past. Where the Pahlavi dynasty was firmly anchored within the Western geopolitical and economic camp, the Islamic Republic has systematically cultivated alternative global partnerships and institutional affiliations. While the collapse of the 2015 nuclear deal, JCPOA, and the reinstatement of maximum pressure sanctions served as critical accelerants for this pivot, its underlying strategic logic was established at the revolution's outset to secure political and economic partnerships outside an oppressive Western-led order, thereby ensuring the nation's long-term sovereignty and survival. Iran's strategic partnerships with Beijing, Moscow, and nations across the global south are framed not as temporary alliances of convenience, but as a deliberate positioning with an emerging multipolar world order to preserve independence. For the sanctioned Islamic Republic, these diverse ties serve as vital economic lifelines and crucial diplomatic support within multilateral forums. Today, Iran's foreign policy represents a sophisticated, multi-layered calculus. It is a strategy born of foundational revolutionary independence and designed to engage within networks of a converging non-imperial world. Central to this strategy is engagement with projects such as China's Belt and Road Initiative and the North-South International Transport Corridor. Tehran actively operationalizes these alignments by integrating into the institutional architecture of a rising Asia, securing full membership in pivotal forums like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRICS. These memberships are not merely symbolic. They provide essential platforms for high-level diplomacy, security coordination, and structured economic engagement operating entirely outside the Western sphere of influence. Thus, Iran's geopolitical journey narrates a revolution in its strategic posture. It has systematically exchanged overt political and military subordination for asymmetrical alliances and relationships, swapped superpower patronage for multipolar partnerships, and replaced integrated economic dependency with sovereign multilateral cooperation. Its ultimate objective is no longer to serve as a loyal pillar of a Western-led order, but to ensure that in an era defined by networks, corridors, and connectivity, the Islamic Republic evolves into an indispensable and independent geopolitical node, an idealistic yet grounded vision, and a resilient testament to a sovereign path decisively chosen 47 years ago. At 47, the Islamic Republic of Iran is neither a completed project nor a static entity. It is a continuous process. Its journey has been defined by a triad of forces: a foundational revolution that answered the question of governance with its own script, relentless external pressure that forged resilience by seeking to bend its will, and the unwavering pursuit of an independent path, building its own network of solidarity, alliances, and strategic partnerships. Its endurance, however, cannot be explained by doctrine or strategy alone. It is rooted in a complex social reality, the sustained support of a public that has repeatedly chosen to adapt and persevere in the face of immense external pressure. Despite the weight of sanctions and the specter of foreign intervention, this societal resilience has been the ultimate indispensable pillar of the state's continuity. This endurance demands a factual understanding. It has irrevocably shaped the destiny and geopolitics of the world's most critical region. It has sparked urgent debates on the price of imperial intervention. And perhaps most significantly, it has demonstrated that civilizational states are not relics, that they can draw from their deepest wells of tradition, belief, and popular resilience to build defiantly independent models for the future. See you next week.